Yes, sir. Prayer song is ready, no, sir?
Okay.
Okay, sir. Then we'll start. Good morning, everyone gathered here through the virtual presence today. On behalf of Department of Electronics, St. Joseph's College, Trichy, Tamil Nadu, we cordially invite you all to this webinar on MATLAB for beginners. We, the Department of Electronics, established in the year 1993, is the biggest of its kind in the Bharathidasan University, Tamil Nadu, imparting knowledge of electronics to the students. The department offers BSc Electronics and MSc Electronics courses. The embedded system-based curriculum design is focused to expertise the students in the same field which scopes up with the industrial needs. The students are trained and motivated to express their creativity and technical stuff via the Electronics Tech Fest Cum exhibition, JOSLEX, conducted every year. Our department is conducting and handling all consultancy services both inside and outside the campus, which leaves a paved way to our students for learning by doing and improvises their designing and servicing skills. Besides these things, the whole campus CCTV surveillance in the college premises, huge LED display maintenance is also carried out by the faculties and students of the department. With this small introduction, we will enter into today's webinar. God promises in His word that He hears every word that we pray to Him. Like a good parent, He is waiting, ready, and willing to listen our worries, concerns, and needs. Let's start this event with a prayer song. With the blessings of God and the support from the management, I happily invite our head of the department, Dr. I. Johnson, to welcome the gathering.
Very good morning to all. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome the chief guest of today's webinar, Navi Mumbai. Our resource person is an eminent researcher and scholar. He obtained his BE in Electrical Engineering from Nagpur University. He obtained fractional calculus, fractional order modeling and control. He is having rich research experience in SEI lab, DRDO and MHRD projects. He is having nearly 60 papers in various national and international journals. He published a research book with Springer Nature. He delivered more than 60 guest lectures in India and abroad. I have no doubt that he is the most apt person to talk about MATLAB because he used MATLAB in various aspects of not only in electronics, in all fields of science. I welcome you wholeheartedly on behalf of the management of this college and also the department and also on behalf of the large audience. I welcome you, sir. I welcome Reverend Father Principal, Reverend Dr. R.
Dr. Johnson, sir, for inviting me and introducing me. Thanks for the St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli, for inviting me to deliver this webinar. Especially, I would like to thank Dr. Johnson, sir, and Mrs. Shivagami, madam, for inviting me to this talk. Now, it would be a great privilege for me to deliver the webinar today. One is like a calculator. So what we are going to see in the first half and majority of the second half in this webinar is that we are going to see the use of MATLAB as a calculator, basically. Okay, but there are two other ways in which MATLAB can be used. I am talking about the theoretical application and theoretical usage of MATLAB, simulation-based usage. There are other features of MATLAB which might be of interest to engineers. I will come to that later. So the one that you see in front of you is a command prompt, and in this command prompt, if you type something, MATLAB will give answer like a calculator. For example, if I write 2 plus 2, okay, MATLAB will give the answer as 4. So this is what the answer which has come. Now if you see that the MATLAB has given the answer and it has automatically stored this answer in a variable called ANS. Okay, so this is also one of the strong point of MATLAB, that if you don't define a variable, output variable, MATLAB will store it in a default variable known as ANS. And now if you do the next operation without defining a variable, output variable, MATLAB will store it will override on this ANS variable. So coming back to my original point, command prompt is one way of using MATLAB. You can also do a serious coding. If you want to write a big code, let me show you visible. Please give me a okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So you can see here you can write a code or a program or a set of instructions, and this also you can execute. So one way of using MATLAB is using command prompt directly as a calculator, where you ask MATLAB to do something and MATLAB will reciprocate and give you answer. That is one way. Second way is, as I have shown you, you write a code and you execute that code, after debug that code and will produce the output. Third way of using MATLAB environment. If you can see, we are going to do this Simulink exercise in the second half. So you can directly go into the Simulink, the simulation environment of MATLAB, and you can directly connect the blocks and you can carry out the simulation. Now what type of simulation you can carry out, which can be used in other way also. MATLAB has got a capability to directly connect to hardware. So let's say you have a Arduino microcontroller, or if you have a DSP processor, or if you have an FPGA processor, then you can use MATLAB through the Simulink mode. You can directly connect it with that hardware and you can dump your code or your logic onto that hardware target, which may be a microcontroller or a DSP processor or an FPGA processor, and you can start working. MATLAB can also be used for something called as hardware in loop, HIL simulations. In our department here, we have been using MATLAB to do the HIL simulation using MATLAB, and we have got something called as DSpace. DSpace is a HIL simulation code on this. Let's say you have written a code for low pass that can be directly put on that FPGA or inserted, or because we are motivated to watch a movie because the trailer seems to be very nice. So you can start using MATLAB. Okay. Now let us go ahead and let me start this file. Now I can also have some other calculations done here. I can define those variables. So I define B is equal to A caret sin 2, which is A square. Okay, so it will give me the next answer. Then I define another variable C, which is equal to 1.234. Okay, right? Then I will do, let's say I want to find the sine of C. So sine of C. The viewers must have realized that in MATLAB define that treats it as a. If this is clear, moderators, please let me know if I am slow enough or do I need to slow down again. Is it okay? Is the pace okay?
Yes, sir. The speed is okay. Audible.
Okay. Okay,
sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So now with this, I am going to press the enter key and you will find all these answers given by MATLAB. I'll press the enter now. Okay. Now you see the first answer, the first one is A is equal to 3.26. We have defined this variable A. B is equal to minus 5.69. And the first operation was A plus B. Okay. So it has given me the answer A plus B as 3.26 minus 5.69, which is minus 2.34. Second one is A minus B. Since B is negative, it will get added. Third one is A into B. Fourth one is A divided by B. And last one is A to the power B. Now the question that may come to your mind is, will MATLAB always going to show me the 4 digits after decimal point? That is an important question. Answer to this is no. Please understand one thing here, that at the back end, MATLAB is using the complete precision. MATLAB is using the complete word length to do the calculation. Now we have to tell MATLAB that I want to see not only 4 digits, more than 4 digits I want to see after the decimal point. There is a simple command for that. Format long G. This is the command. I hope it is visible. Format long G. Okay. And I will press the enter. Format long G. And now what I am going to do, I am going to again evaluate the same set of instructions. I am going to now evaluate here. And now I have written a number. Okay. And this is the answer that you have got. So A, B, and then addition, subtraction. We can see so many digits which are displayed after the decimal point. Okay. And A to the power B also to the next part of this. Okay. Now defining mathematical constants in MATLAB. What are the commonly used mathematical constants? Pi. Okay, the ratio of circumference to diameter of a circle, pi. Then the Euler's exponential function, exponential constant. Then the complex, to define complex numbers, we need imaginary numbers. Okay, that can be defined using I and J. And then we can also define a complex number, and we can also write down infinity. Now I'm going to show you one by one these things. So how do you define pi? I will clear the command screen. I will clear the workspace. I will also clear the command screen. So done. Okay. So pi. So if you write down help pi, the most important advantage of MATLAB is that in MATLAB, the help is very easy to understand and it is very readily available. So if you want to get information about some command or some routine, you just write down help and you write down that command syntax. MATLAB will display the help for this. So I'm writing help pi here, okay, and it shows that pi is equal to 3.1415926 and all those. Okay, this is how you use the command. We will see help command. We will see this later when we actually come to the calculation. So I'll write down pi and it gives me pi. So when you are writing a code in MATLAB or when you are using MATLAB as a calculator, please do not use these default variables or routine names to define your variables. This is the caution that you have to take. So don't store your result in a variable pi. Okay. So because pi has been a default command of MATLAB. So this is pi. Okay. Now there is another command exp1. Okay. exp1 will give me the Euler's constant. Okay. E, our exponential 2.7182. Then if I write simple I and if I press answer, it will give me, can you see this answer here? Answer is 0 plus 1i. 0 plus 1i. So I and j. I will write j now. J is also stored for under root of -1, imaginary number I and j. We should not use this in our course because these are the predefined variables by MATLAB. Okay. Next, interesting variable which MATLAB stores is INF. Okay. So I will write down help INF. INF stands for infinity. Okay. What is this INF and why do you need it? It's very interesting thing. So I will read the help for this. INF stands for infinity. INF returns the IEEE arithmetic representation for positive infinity. Infinity is also produced by operations like dividing by 0, okay, like 1 by 0 or from overflow. If you define a very large number and if MATLAB is not able to represent it or store it, it will ultimately tell you INF. What is the use of INF? Okay, fine. So let's first see when MATLAB returns INF. So 1 by 0. Let's do this. Division by 0 is forbidden in mathematics. Okay. So 1 by 0. It gives me INF. So why it is important? Advertently, unknowingly, algorithm or in your code, okay, MATLAB will email you by displaying this INF. If you have 1 divided by 0, either it will stop your code or it will give you some garbage value. And that garbage value will get carry forwarded and you will, and your final answer will be totally different from what you had expected. Okay, but if it happens that you are having division by 0, then it will give you infinity. There is one more condition on which you can have division INF. Let's say we have 1000 to the power 1000. Okay, in this case also you have 1000 to the power. Okay, so I hope this is clear regarding the use of infinity. Okay, I will write down help VPA softwares, and I don't want to compare one software with another. Every software has got its own forte, its own strong points, and its own lacunae. Okay, but I with my personal experience, I would like to say that the learning curve, okay, with MATLAB is very steep. In very short span of time, you can learn MATLAB a lot. Okay, you can go to the depths of the MATLAB. Okay, I will clear the screen. Let's quickly move. Okay, now let us define some physical constants. Okay, so defining physical constants in MATLAB. Okay, right. So Boltzmann constant. I hope my command prompt is visible to each one of you. So Boltzmann constant, speed of light, and earth radius. These are the three things which MATLAB will directly display. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, and these are in SI units. Okay, so you can see K, which is the Boltzmann constant, is 1.38 into 10 to the power minus 23. This is a special way of MATLAB to display something of 10 to the power something. So it will write E minus 23. So it is 10 to the power minus 23. Then we have C. C is the speed of light in meters per second. And the third one is Earth's radius in meter. So you can directly use this command to use these constants in your calculation, in your code. Again, what is the command? This is the command. PHYSCONST. You can type this command in MATLAB and you can get its help. I will not do that because we have to cover so many things. Okay. Now, MATLAB as a scientific calculator. Okay. So we will see now some basic commands of MATLAB. Okay. So I will write clear and CLC. So I want to find the square root of 2. SQRT2, this is the command which will give me the square root of 2. Okay, I want to find the sine of 90. Sine of 90 is, we know, sine 90 is 1. Okay, so if I directly write, so if I define a variable theta is equal to 90, sorry, so theta is equal to 90. Okay, and if I write sine of theta, so theta is the variable that I have defined, sine of theta. We were expecting an answer of 1, but the MATLAB has given answer as 0.893. So the MATLAB answer differs from what we know, sine 90 is 1. The conclusion is very simple, that MATLAB uses radians. Default it uses radians. Okay, so I have to write sine of pi by 2. Okay, if I write sine of pi by 2, it will give me the answer as 1. Similarly, I can check other trigonometrical ratios, sine, cos, tan and all that. Okay, right. Next, we can have logarithm. So if I want to find log of 2, so it will give me the answer log of 2. Remember, by default, it's a natural logarithm, log to the base e. Okay, if I want to find log to the base 10, then I have to write log 10. Let's say we find the log 10 of 100. What will be the answer? 2. Okay, so this is how it is working. Okay, so we have seen log and all those things. Similarly, we can also see something called as the inverse logarithm and inverse trigonometric functions, arctan and all that. So I can just quickly write help a tan. Okay, so if you write help a tan arc tangent, so it will give me the inverse tangent. Okay, and result in the radians. Okay, so this is how it all works. Next we quickly move ahead, okay, to the complex numbers. So you can have, let me define a complex number and let me try to find out its angle and its magnitude. So please see this command. So z is equal to 3 plus 4j. This is how I am going to define a complex number. Z1 is nothing but absolute of z, which gives the magnitude of z when z is a complex number. Okay, and the last one is phi, which is angle z. Okay, which will give me the angle, that is phase in radians. Okay, so you see how easy it is. So z is equal to 3 plus 4i. And we know that absolute of this under root of 3 square plus 4 square, the magnitude is 5. And the angle, as you know, this angle is in radians. And if I want to convert this angle in degrees, okay, so I will have phi into 180 divided by pi. Okay, so phi into 180 divided by pi. will give the answer as 53.13. This is the angle in degree. Okay, very easy. Next, if I want to calculate the roots of a polynomial, okay, it's very easy. I want to calculate the roots of a polynomial. Please read what is written on the command prompt. I want to find the roots of a polynomial. Which polynomial I am considering? P of x is equal to 2 into x to the power 7 minus x to the power 4 plus x minus 4. Now you all will agree with me that finding the roots or zeros of any polynomial more than 2 quadratic, it's very tough. And according to our Galois, okay, the famous mathematician, we cannot express the roots of a polynomial more than, I think, n greater than 3. We cannot express it in terms of 3 or 4. We cannot express it in terms of the coefficients of the polynomial. So I remember my engineering days when we used to write a code in C, and we were asked by our teacher to find out the roots of a 6th order polynomial or 5th order polynomial and write down the code. So we use all different types of numerical algorithms. I remember one method particularly, very powerful method, Lean-Bairstow method. I remember that. Okay, we used to refer to a book by Scarborough, Numerical Mathematical Methods by Scarborough, and in that method was given. And I remember writing a code in C language and finding the roots of a polynomial. It was a hell lot of a job to find out write that code and find out the roots. But now the things are very easy. You define the coefficients of this polynomial as an array. We are going to come to array later, okay, to define it. Okay, so 2 is the coefficient of x to the power 7, and then those who are not there, you write 0, and then you use a simple command x is equal to roots p, and it will directly give me the roots of this 7th order polynomial. Now this is 7th order, so there is a possibility that there might be 3 pairs of complex conjugate poles or zeros, and one might be real. Okay, one should be real, I think. Okay, so let's see the answer. Yes, with a single click and single enter, you have got the answer. So this is the first root, this is its conjugate, this is the second root, this is its conjugate, this one is a real one, and this one is again a complex conjugate pair. So you have got the answer for the roots of a polynomial. Very easy to do it in MATLAB. So I want you all to appreciate the computational power of MATLAB. MATLAB, as I said, was initially developed to provide a strong or solid computational tool, as a solid computational tool. Okay, so this is how the MATLAB gives you the answer. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay, I'll not go with this simple thing. Now looping. For loop. Okay, please note, in a one-day webinar, it's not possible to cover the complete MATLAB. Even I have been learning MATLAB for last 20 years and I am still learning MATLAB. There are a lot of things which I have come to know when I prepared for this webinar or for our STTP. And these developers of MATLAB, which the company is MathWorks. It is a US-based company, okay, and they have offices in India also. So they come up with 2 versions every year. So they will, for first 6 months, they will have release 1, and for the second one, they will have release 2. Like in 2020, now till June, they had MATLAB release 2021, and after June to December, in the December, they will come up with MATLAB release 2022. I am using a release or A or B. So you can see I am using this MATLAB release 2015A. Okay, so this old version I am using. Okay, so for loop, let's say for first 10 integers, positive integers, I want to find out their square. So 1 square, 2 square, 3 square. Okay. So to write a simple code for n is equal to 1 is to 10. So colon is there in between. X of n is equal to n square and n. And finally I have written x because I want to see what is there in variable. Okay. So you get the answer 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64 and all those things. Okay. Very simple. I don't think there is anything much required for explanation here. Okay. Now MATLAB you can also use while loop. Okay. So while loop. So in MATLAB you can do this iteration process with two loops. One is for loop and one is while loop. Okay. So let's say I want to calculate the triangle numbers. The definition is n into n plus 1 by 2. And I want to find this for the first 5 integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So n equal to 1 is my initialization. N is less than or equal to 5. I will run my loop. And then in this variable t, which will directly become an array, because this n is nothing but the index of t. Here every time for every n it's going to store the triangle number, and then the increment for n is equal to n plus 1 and n. So I am going to answer this, and since there was a semicolon here at the end, it did not display the answer. So you can suppress the answer, you can suppress the echo by putting a semicolon here. Okay, so I'll write down t, and this is what we get 1, 3, 6, 10, 15. Okay, so this is how you can have the triangle numbers, and this is how you can use the while loop. I'll just quickly tell you about this semicolon. So if you write a is equal to tan pi by 4, it will give the answer a equal to 1. Now what I am going to do, I am again going to run the same command, but I am going to put a semicolon at the end. You can see this semicolon. This is the semicolon. The moment I do it, okay, MATLAB will execute that command, but it will suppress the output and it will not echo it on the command prompt. So I'll press the enter now. The command has been executed, but a is equal to 1 is not displayed on the command prompt. Just wanted to share this small thing with you. Okay, I hope you are understanding. Okay, now the conditional statements. Okay, I'll copy this code and I will evaluate this. How many prime numbers are there between 100 and 200? This is the question. Now, we can write a simple code in MATLAB and we can evaluate this. So, in this, we are using this conditional statement, if, then, if else, and all that. So, prime is equal to 0 is the initialization of counter. Composite, those which are not prime, they will be composite numbers. Prime numbers, I hope everyone knows. Okay, the number which is divisible by the number and that number itself and 1 only. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, these are all prime numbers. Okay, and there are infinitely many prime numbers. So you want to find out how many prime numbers are there between 100 and 200. So you need a for loop which goes from 100 to 200. Now there is a very beautiful command in MATLAB which is prime. Is prime. Okay, so is prime will tell me if n which is coming here, if it is prime, MATLAB will return 1. If it returns 0, okay, it is a composite number. So I have written a conditional statement here. Please understand this very carefully. If is prime of n, what is n? N will come from here. So first n will be 100, then 101, 102, 103 and all that up to 200 with a counter of 1. Okay. So if is prime of 100, if it is equal to 1, is 100 a prime number? No. So it will not return 1 here. This is a comparison operational comparators. Okay, equal to. So if 100 is a prime number, each prime is going to return 1, but 100 is not a prime number, so it's going to return 0. So it will not go into this particular line. It will go to here, else, and it will add the counter of composite numbers by 1. Initially, we have defined the counters, both counters as 0. 101, yes, 101 is a prime number. Okay, so it will take 1 here, and I will execute this complete code now. Okay, so how many prime numbers are there? So it tells me that there are total 21 prime numbers between 100 and 200. How many composite numbers are there? 80 composite numbers are there, because when we start from 100, 100 is also considered. So between 100 to 200 there are 101 integers including 100. Okay, so there are 80 composite numbers which are not prime numbers, and there are 21 prime numbers. I hope this code is very straightforward and it's very easily understandable. I will be sharing all these codes with the organizers, and my request to organizers is that please disseminate these codes to all the participants. I mean, I'll be happy if they use these codes for learning MATLAB. Okay, even those things which I would not be able to cover due to the unavailability of time, even those codes I will be sharing with all the participants. Okay, next let us see what is there. Now let's come to the plotting. Okay, let's come to the plotting. Now let's do a 2D plot first. MATLAB, first of all, I would like to tell you that MATLAB has got a very strong GUI, graphical user interface, and plotting in MATLAB, curve plotting in MATLAB is one of the best, because you can add a lot of colors to that. Okay, and second thing is you can convert that file into any JPEG, PNG or PostScript or PDF or anything. So that is one of the major advantage, and it's a very strong function. So before we go and study plot, I will write down help plot. Again, help in MATLAB is very easy. Help plot. So it directly gives me the help. It gives me a linear plot. Okay, right? Linear means, please don't misunderstand this linear as it will plot only straight lines. By the linear plot, it means that the x-axis and y-axis are both linear. Okay, because sometimes you may also need a semi-log plot, you may need a log-log plot, and all those things. In a semi-log plot, you have your either x-axis or y-axis in the logarithmic scale, and another one in the simple linear scale. Okay, here this talks about the axis attributes. Okay, so plot x comma y. So this is a very simple command. So you plot, you have the independent variable, you have the dependent variable, okay, and you directly plot it. This is very simple. So these are the different colors that you can use. These are the different attributes that you can add. You can add legends and everything. So blue, green, red, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and white. These are the colors. White generally we don't use. So these blue to black, these are the colors that you can use for plotting. Okay. And one important feature of MATLAB help is that if you seek help in one command, it will also give you its suggestions. Look at this. So it says see plot tools, see semilog x, semilog y, as I said, log, plot yy, plot free grid. Some of these we are going to see. Okay. Okay, fine. Let us have a look at, let us copy this 2D plot. Before I execute these commands, I would like to explain to you. So what I want to do, I want to plot theta versus sine theta. Okay, theta versus sine theta, and theta goes from 0 to 2 pi. Theta goes from 0 to 2 pi, 0 to 2 pi with a step size of 0.01. Okay, and then f is equal to sine theta. Now here the interesting thing is, those who have used C language, if you want to calculate the of an array which contains the values of theta, in C you have to write a for loop, or you may have to use some package. Okay, you cannot apply the sine function on directly that array. Okay, but in MATLAB there are some functions which directly work on array. So sine is one of such function, trigonometric function. So you write f is equal to sine theta. Directly it will calculate the theta, the sinusoidal, the sine value of each theta. Next, we write the command plot. Look at this command, plot. First is my independent variable, which is theta. Second is my f, which is sine theta. And third one in single quotes is B. This B stands for the blue color. So I want MATLAB to plot sine theta versus theta with the color of the plot as blue. Then I want to give X label. X label is theta, Y label is sine theta, and title I want to give, and I want to add the grid lines. Grid lines, it's always better to add grid lines because then you can locate any value very accurately. Okay. Now here, those who have been using this LaTeX software, okay, LaTeX, L-A-T-E-X, LaTeX software to write their reports or papers, they will easily recognize this /theta. Because I don't want theta to be written there. I want that Greek letter theta to come there. Okay. So in this, you can directly use these LaTeX commands and you can add such symbols to your plot. Okay. So I hope all the viewers have understood how this is working. Again, you define theta, you calculate f, you do the plot, then you add X label, label to the X-axis, Y label, title, and then you make the grid on. Okay, I am going to evaluate it. Okay. Yes. We have got this theta versus sine theta. Now, if you will see here, I am not sure if you will be able to see this on YouTube. Here you can see there is a theta written here, and here there is sine theta. So that symbol has come. Look at this title. We had given this title, plot of sine function. Okay. Now I want to zoom it. Very simple. I want to see this particular peak. So I have selected this here, and I am going to the zoom in tool, and I can zoom it here. I can see it, whatever is there. Okay. If I want to store this plot as a JPEG file, okay, I'll just go to File, Save As. Okay, and I can save this with BMP, Paintbrush, bitmap file, EPS, EMF, JPEG, Paintbrush, everything. I can store this file in whatever way. So I can store this directly as a JPEG, and I will call this as Fig1. Okay, so it has been directly stored as a JPEG file. I can open that JPEG file and show you. Let me check. Yes. So you see, it's coming. It takes time slightly. So this JPEG file will come here. Yeah. Yes, you see this JPEG file has, so you have saved your MATLAB file figure as a JPEG file direct. Okay, fine. Now we got a 1D plot. Now here I will not go into much details, but then you have a basic fitting also tool available here. So you want to do the curve fitting, polynomial curve fitting basically. Okay, then you can directly click on this basic fitting and you can try to go ahead with this curve fitting. Okay, so let's say I want to use a 8th degree polynomial and I want to fit it. Okay, so you see it has shown the fit with the 8th degree polynomial. So 8th degree polynomial has directly fitted, and this is your polynomial. This is your polynomial. So you have done the basic curve fitting. You have done the basic curve fitting, and how much is the error? So the norm of residuals is, it might not be visible here, but I suggest to all viewers to do this on their own. Okay. Now let's go to a 3D curve plotting using MATLAB. 3D plot, parametric plots as they call it. Okay. So 3D plot. So what you have, t is equal to 0 to pi by 50 to 10 pi. So I am running my t from 0 to 10 pi, 10 times pi with a step of pi by 50. Okay, and this figure command will open a new figure, and then I am having sin t and cos t, okay, versus t. So this is the 3D plot. It's going to give me a helix. Okay, this is the parametric equation for helix. Okay, so t will be on x-axis, on y-axis will be sin t, and on z-axis will be cos t, and MATLAB will plot all these triple points, 3D points, sin t, cos t, and t, basically. Okay, so let me run it here, and let us see what answer do we get. Yes. So you have got a 3D plot. I have not added here x level and y level and z level, that you can add. So you can see this is a 3D plot available. Now let's say I want to rotate this plot. Okay, I want to rotate this plot. I can do it in whatever way I want, and I can use the rotated version whichever way I want to store it. And then I will, let's say I want to have it in this orientation. I can have it, and then I can save file, save as a JPEG file. So it will be directly stored. So I hope you have understood this. The difference between simple plot command and this 2D plot command and this 3D plot command is that command syntax was PLOT only. Here the syntax is plot 3. Okay. Here the syntax is plot 3. Okay. Now the next question that comes to our mind is, can MATLAB be used to plot a complex curve, complex plots? Yes. And the answer is yes. Now, plot for complex variables, Riemann surfaces, a very interesting concept in complex analysis, introduced by the great Riemann, basically to take care of the multi-valued functions. Okay, so a Riemann surface has got Riemann sheets, and in complex analysis you have to deal with this multi-valuedness of functions, because in real analysis you deal with basically single valued functions. In complex analysis you have to deal with these multi-valued functions, and then Riemann introduced this basic concept of Riemann surface. Okay, so here I am going to show you a simple example which plots basically the Riemann surface for W is equal to Z to the power 1 by 5. So Z to the power 1 by 5, where Z is a complex number, and I hope we all remember that nth root of unity, which we studied in complex analysis, basic complex analysis, nth root of unity. So 1 to the power 1 by 10, 1 or 1 to the power 1 by 5, if 1 is considered as a real number, you will get only one answer or two answers. Okay, but the moment you consider 1 as a complex number, 1 plus j0, and if you have that to the power 1 by 5, then you get 5 roots for this 1 to the power 1 by 5. Okay, and some of them are real numbers, some of them are complex numbers. Basically, this is the concept of, please recall that nth root of unity. Okay, now here we can use MATLAB to simply get this Riemann surface for Z to the power 1 by 5. Z to the power 1 by 5, and if Z is a complex number, is a complex valued and a multi-valued function. Okay, so as per Riemann's theory, your Riemann surface is going to have 5 Riemann sheets. Basically, okay, so let me press enter and please have a look at this. So this is the Riemann surface for Z to the power 1 by 5, and you can see there are 5 Riemann sheets which are separated from each other from the branch cuts. This is first one, this is second one, this is third one, then the fourth one, and the last one is the fifth one. Okay, so each answer is going to occupy place on one of the Riemann sheets. Now you will appreciate the computational power and the GUI power of MATLAB, how easy it is to use MATLAB. Remember, MATLAB was initially developed as a computational tool. MATLAB comes under the category of computational software. There are other softwares which are used for doing the analytical calculations. They are known as computer algebra softwares. Some of the examples are Mathematica, Maple, NewPad, and other things. Okay, we will also see how MATLAB can be used to find out the derivatives, integrations, limits, and everything with that particular MATLAB. Let us move ahead now. Let us move ahead to the next part, that is, because as I said, MATLAB stands for Matrix Laboratory, and the power of MATLAB is in defining or handling the arrays and matrices. That is the strong point of MATLAB. How MATLAB, the handling of matrices and arrays, okay, that is a very strong point of MATLAB. And now we are going to see how the handling of these arrays and matrices and computations based on that, finding the inverse, finding the determinant, finding the pseudo inverse, finding different types of decompositions like QR, SVD, and all that, finding the different types of other like for example, eigenvalues of a MATLAB, singular value eigenvalues of a matrix, singular values of a matrix, all these things that we are going to see. Okay, now defining row vectors. Okay, so let's start with that. So how do you define? Please note that to save the time, I have already written these commands in a code, and I am copying them from there and directly putting it here on the command prompt. Okay, because I want to save the time of typing the commands here. Okay, so A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a 1 cross 4 row vector. Why 1 cross 4? because it has got one row and it has got 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I am defining an array B with floating numbers. Okay, and the last command I have written here is size A. Size A stands for, it will give me the size of A and number of rows and number of columns. Yes. So look at the answer. A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Just give me 1 second. I will clear everything and I will again have this command. Okay, because now we will be able to pinpoint the variables. A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. B is equal to another 1 cross 4 row vector. Okay, let me execute it. Fine. Now see here, A. What is the size of A here? 1 cross 4. What is the size of B? 1 cross 4. Okay, so this is the array. And when I use this last command, size A, you can do help size. It will give you the help regarding size. So it gave me row number as 1 and column number as 4. So how easy it is to define a row or a column vector. Now, second thing, I have this A. I want to define a column vector now. I want this A to be a column vector. One way is to define a column vector. Second way is I define B is equal to A prime. Prime stands for transpose. So A is a row vector having 1 row and 4 columns. When I write B is equal to A prime, it will give me B as a column vector. 1, 2, 3, 4. It will give me B as a column vector. Okay, what is the size of B? Look here. The size of B is 4 cross 1. Okay, right. So B has got 4 rows and 1 column. Okay, very simple. Now basic operation of row vectors and all this, I think I should not go into these details. Let me show you quickly. So I define A is equal to, I'll define it using a random variable. So there is a simple command called rand. So I'll write help rand. Help rand will create a uniformly distributed pseudo-random numbers. Uniformly distributed pseudo-random numbers. So these are random numbers, but MATLAB is using an algorithm to develop those random numbers. So there is an algorithm which is being used to generate the random numbers. So they are not true random numbers, that's why they are pseudo-random numbers. And they are uniformly distributed. You can also generate a Gaussian distribution or normal distribution, then the command is rand n. Why I have given this command? I will now create the matrices and arrays using this rand command. So I will write A is equal to rand 1, 4. So this tells MATLAB that please generate an array with 1 row and 4 columns and let the elements be randomly generated. Got it. Let me reduce the display of decimal digits. Format short. Format short is the command to reduce the decimal display. Okay. Again, I will write the same command. As I said, you can press the up arrow key. So A is equal to rand 1, 4. Here I get A is equal to, so I have got this. Next time if I press the command, will I get the same elements in my A? No, because it's a randomly generated array. Okay, A, I get a different. Okay, leave it. So A is equal to rand 1, 4. B is equal to again rand 1, 4. So I have got two randomly generated 1 cross 4 arrays, 1 row and 4 column. Now I can perform all the operations on this. C is equal to A plus B, addition of arrays. D is equal to A minus B. Sorry. This is A This is B, C is their addition, D is equal to A minus B, subtraction. Okay, we have got. Now, I want to multiply. I want to multiply A and B. Okay, this is my A, this is my B. I want to multiply A and B. Okay, the problem here is that if I directly write A star B, if I directly write A star B, okay, MATLAB is going to prompt an error. It says inner matrix dimensions must agree. Why this is given by MATLAB? Because when you want to multiply two arrays or two matrices, there is one dimension check that you have to take care of. The number of columns in the first matrix or array should be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix or array. Inner matrix dimensions must match. If they don't match, okay, then there will be a problem. Here A is 1 cross 4, B is also 1 cross 4, so A into B is directly not possible. But can I do A into transpose of B? Yes, I can do that. A star B prime will give me the A multiplied by transpose of B. And what will be the answer? A is 1 cross 4, B transpose is 4 cross 1. So 1 cross 4 multiplied with 4 cross 1 will give me 1 cross 1. That means I will get a scalar, basically. Okay, so let us try this. A, B, I am going to write now C is equal to A star B prime. Please look at this command very carefully. A star B prime. Okay, and this is going to evaluate the, this is going to work. This is not going to give any error. Okay, and the answer is a scalar. As I said, the answer is scalar. Okay, now I hope this is understood. This is A, this is B. Now what I want to do, I want to generate a third array C, but there I want the element wise multiplication of A and B. That means I want this 0.357 should be multiplied with 0.7577, and that should be the first element of C. This multiplied with this should be the second element of C. This multiplied with this should be the third element of C, and the last one should be the multiplication of these two. Is it possible to do? Answer is yes. And how do you do it? There is a command called dot commands, which are also known as element wise operation. This is the element wise operation we want to do. So what I will write here, C is equal to A dot star B. Remember, A is 1 cross of this element and this element. Like this is known as element wise operation. Other operations are also possible. Okay, let us see if I can work out A by B. A by B, it has given me this answer. Now I will write A backslash B. Okay, it has also given me one answer. So I will not explain this. You please check out what does this mean, basically. Okay, because we have to move ahead now. Okay. Now let me directly come to something called as special arrays. Okay. Now let's say I want to define. I directly come to now matrices. Okay. So how do you define matrices? So A, 3, 4. So I want to define a 2 cross 2 array. I want to define a 2 cross 2 array where the first row has got 1, 2, and this semicolon tells MATLAB that go to the next row array. Okay. What is the size of A? Size of A is 2 cross 2. It has got 2 rows and 2 columns. Basically, I have skipped some part of the array because we have to move ahead and we have to learn other things, especially the matrix operations. That is very important. Okay. So you have A like this, and you have size of A, which is nothing but 2 cross 2. You can define any array. You can define any matrix here. Let's say, again, I can use the command rand. So let's say I define A is equal to rand 3. A is equal to rand 3 means you are telling MATLAB to generate a 3 cross 3 square matrix with random entries, random elements. Okay, you see it has generated a 3 cross 3 array. Can I generate a large array? Of course I can. Let's say I want to generate a 10 cross 10 array in MATLAB. This is what you have got: 10 cross 10 array or 10 cross 10 MATLAB, a matrix generated in MATLAB. Okay, you can see this. Very easy to generate in MATLAB. Okay, now I want to generate some special matrices. For example, I want to generate a matrix of zeros, all zeros. I want to generate matrix of zeros. Okay, so I will write here B is equal to zeros 3. What this will do? It will generate a matrix B which has got all elements as 0. Very simple. It's very useful. I mean, viewers will appreciate this when they will be doing a coding in MATLAB where they need to suddenly generate an array or a vector or a matrix. Okay, they want to initialize something and the matrix is of, say, dimension 50 by 50 and you want to initialize it. Now, if you write the routine code and if you use a for loop and assign each value as 0, then that is going to eat time, that is going to eat memory. Okay, so this becomes very easy when you want to define a 50 cross 50 matrix with all entries 0, a 50 cross 50 matrix initialized. Okay, I want to define an identity matrix. Okay, before that I want to define a matrix of all ones. All ones. This is the matrix of all zeros. So I can define all ones. So I will have some variable x is equal to 1s, 4 or 5. It has generated a matrix 5 cross 5 square matrix with all entries as 1. Very easy. Spatial matrices. I hope my pace is okay and I hope you are all with me. Okay. Next. Yeah. Next. The most important matrix is the identity matrix. I want to generate a 3 cross 3 identity matrix 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. Is there a command in MATLAB for that? Yes. The command is, I'll write I, capital I, is equal to EYE 3. So I is an identity matrix 1 0 0 0 1 0 and 0 0 1. So we have generated a 3 cross 3 identity matrix. Very important. Okay. Now let me move ahead. I will not go ahead with this, how to extract a row, how to extract a column and all that. You want to generate a diagonal matrix. Okay. How do you generate a diagonal matrix? So let us check this. What I have not covered, but I would like to tell you, is that let us say I want to get this particular second row, second column element extracted from this matrix. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. How? So I will say that, store that variable in, say, some z or b. B is equal to I, capital I, second row, second column. What is second row, second column here? Is 1. This one. Okay. So that can be extracted. So you have got B as the second row, second column. That is extracted from here. Okay. Now, can I generate a diagonal matrix? Can I generate a square matrix with these elements 1, 2, 3, 4? With these elements 1, 2, 3, 4 appearing in the diagonal of this matrix A. So the command is DIAG, diag. Diag is the command which you will use and it will directly generate these diagonal matrix. This diagonal matrix. You see, you have got this. Please have a look at this. Please have a look at this. Okay. What will be the eigenvalues of this matrix? I am asking this question to viewers. I want the answers in the responses. What will be the what are the eigenvalues of a diagonal matrix? The eigenvalues of a diagonal matrix are nothing but its diagonal elements. Isn't it? Okay. Right. Fine. Next. Block diagonal matrices also you can generate. I will not go into these details. I will show you some special matrix that can be generated. So generation of Hilbert matrix. Okay. Generation of Hilbert matrix. HILB is the command available in MATLAB to generate a Hilbert matrix. Why Hilbert matrix is so important? Hilbert matrix is so important because it is a simple matrix which can be generated very easily. Before I execute this command, I will write down help HILB. Help HILB. HILB Hilbert matrix is a n-cross-n matrix and the elements are calculated in a very simple way. 1 upon I plus j minus 1, where I and j are nothing but the row number and column number of that. So it seems to be a very simple matrix generated, but then you read the next line. It is a famous example of badly conditioned matrix. It is a badly conditioned matrix. What is the meaning of a badly conditioned matrix? The condition number of a matrix tells me how easy that matrix for use in a numerical algorithm. Okay, how close that matrix to make my numerical method go divergent. Badly conditioned, ill conditioned. Okay, so if the condition number is very high, you can say that the matrix is badly conditioned or badly scaled, basically. Now this is very simple. Okay, this matrix looks to be very simple, very innocent, but it is a badly conditioned matrix. Can you generate it? Yes, you can generate it with the simple command HILB. Okay, so this is the command. B is equal to HILB3. It generates a 3 cross 3 Hilbert matrix. I'll just press enter and it is generated. Okay, this is very easy in MATLAB. Then we go to the vendor and all those things. So I will not go into this. I'll just show you one simple command. Vendor, I can show you. Vandermonde matrix. What is a Vandermonde matrix? Okay. Vandermonde matrix. This matrix comes when we Vandermonde matrix is the matrix which is generated, whose columns are the eigenvectors of a matrix. Okay, and if the eigenvalues are distinct, then this Vander matrix can be used to basically find out or to do the diagonalization of that matrix. Okay, so we generated. So this is how the Vandermonde matrix generated by MATLAB. Okay, now let me come to the last thing. You can generate Pascal matrix, okay, inverse. Okay, inverse we will see in the next module. Okay, magic, you can generate a 3x3 magic matrix, magic square matrix. Okay, let's run this. Okay, what does it do quickly? Magic 3. Sum of the elements of each row, column and diagonal is 15. Look at this. MATLAB has generated a magic matrix for us. So add the rows, columns or diagonals, the sum is coming out to be 15. Okay. So interesting things. Last thing, you can define the complex matrices. Okay. Right, or complex arrays. You can define the complex arrays. Okay, so C is equal to an array of complex numbers. Okay, right? So you have generated this. It is a column array. So you might have an impression, false impression that MATLAB works with only real numbers, matrices and arrays. No, it can generate arrays of complex numbers also. Okay, like this you have got. Now here, if I do C prime, C is a column vector with entries as complex numbers. Its size is 5 cross 1, 5 rows, 1 column. Now I want to get the transpose of C. Okay, for that I will write C and this prime. Look at this, C and prime, basically. Okay. Now when we go for the transpose of a complex array or a complex matrix, it is not just the transpose, it is complex conjugate plus transpose. This is the property. Okay. So when I press enter here, I will get a row vector here. I will get a row vector here instead of this column vector, but then each element will be a conjugate of the original element. See here. So it has come perfectly. See, this is a column vector. Answer is a row vector. First element is 1 plus 3i. Here the first element is 1 minus 3i. Okay, so I hope this is clear, and this is how MATLAB calculates the transpose of complex numbers. Okay, we move ahead quickly. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
There are
Yes,
some questions asked from the audience, sir.
I'll be stopping in next 5 minutes. After that, we can take
Okay,
those
sir.
questions if that is okay.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic.
I'm almost. I have almost come to the end of this module. We will take a lunch break after that. But before that,
Okay,
we will
sir.
have some questions. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Now let us come to the norms of real vectors. Okay. So help norm. How to calculate the norm of a vector or norm of a matrix, basically. Okay. So I will show you related to an array, also related to a matrix. Okay. So norm of a vector, you can calculate. How many different types of norms are there? There is one norm. Okay. One norm is nothing but the addition of all the elements of that. Okay. Addition of absolute elements. Okay. Absolute value of the elements of that. Then you have two norm, which is nothing but our simple Euclidean norm. Then you have something called as infinity norm. Okay. Which is nothing but the absolute of the highest number. Okay. Highest entry of that array or matrix. Okay. And we can also define in MATLAB any P norm. Any P norm. Okay, so let's say I want to find the 3 norm. So what will be the 3 norm of an array? You take the cube of all the elements of that array, you add them, and that summation to the power 1 by 3. Okay, that is nothing but the 3 norm of that particular array. Okay, same with the matrices, right? So now I will show you the command how to do it. Okay. Okay. So look at these two commands. B is equal to rand 7, 1. Now you are all aware about this rand command. What is this doing? MATLAB is generating a 7 cross 1 row array with all random numbers. And the next thing that I have written here is V is equal to 0.5 minus V. So this will make some elements of V negative deliberately. This will make some elements of V negative. Why we are doing this? Because we want to check those commands. Because one norm of an array is nothing but the sum of absolute entries of all the elements. Absolute means if an entry is negative, make it positive and then add it. Mod of all. Okay. So let's execute this. So this is V. This is new V, where you have got all these sum of the entries as negative. Okay, right? Now we will directly calculate one norm. Okay, so we will calculate the one norm. What is the command? This is the variable that I have defined. Don't confuse this. This is the variable that I have defined. Okay, actual command is norm v comma 1. What is norm v comma 1? It will tell MATLAB to calculate the one norm of v. This 1 stands for one norm. Okay, what is the answer? This. What is my v? This. This is one norm. This is v. Now I want to check whether MATLAB has calculated correctly or not. So what I will do, I will write a command sum ABS of V. What this command is going to do, this is my V. This ABS V will calculate the absolute of all V, mod of all elements of V. That means all elements will become positive. And the last one is sum. Sum means it will add all the elements of this V. So I should get the same answer as one norm. So I hope you are with me. We are calculating one norm. We defined a V with 7 rows and 1 column. Okay. We have calculated its one norm. Then we are testing it. We are checking it whether it is correct or not. Okay. Yes. And you get the same answer. So look at these answers. This was the answer that we obtained using one norm. This is the answer we obtained using this command. And they are matching. Okay. I hope this is clear now. 2 norm. What is the command for 2 norm? Simple. Again the V remains the same. Norm V comma 2. 2 norm. Okay. You get the 2 norm. 2 norm is basically, so this is my V. So 2 norm is basically under root of minus 0.0499 square plus 0.355 square. All this. And what is the answer coming out? So this is the Euclidean norm, conventional. How do you find the length of a vector? Basically, in 3D, this is the same thing. Okay. MATLAB can calculate any P norm. Okay. So I will show you one command here. MATLAB can compute P norm of a vector where P is a positive number. So as I mentioned to you earlier, P equal to 3. So this will give me 3 norm. P is equal to 6. This will give me 6 norm. Okay. So I will just press, and this is the 3 norm, and this is the 6 norm that we have. What is the infinity norm? Infinity norm is very simple. Okay. You just write the command norm b comma inf. Okay. So I think I have got the answer written there. I think I have executed that already. So you have got the answer. So INF norm. So norm of V, this is my V, norm of this V, and this is the infinity norm. This infinity norm is nothing but the modulus of, highest of modulus of the elements of V, which is the highest. This is the highest, 3550. This itself is positive. So it has given this answer, basically. Similarly, you can also calculate the norm of a matrix. Quickly, I will show you one example. A is equal to rand 3. You have got a 3 cross 3 matrix, which is randomly generated in MATLAB. Norm 2A or norm A comma 2. You have got the norm of this particular matrix. All the norms that I have shown for arrays or vectors, you can also implement them or you can also extend them for the matrices. Okay, let me check what is remaining. I think I am almost done. Yes, these are some of the references that I have considered. MATLAB documentation. Then those who have been teaching linear algebra or studying linear algebra, they will agree with me that Gilbert Stein's book of linear algebra is the best one. Then there are 2 basic books available, Linear Algebra Labs with MATLAB and Solving Applied Mathematical Problems with MATLAB. So these are also good books. I'm going to share these M files with all of you. Please have a look at them and you can use them. Yeah, so this brings us to the end of pre-lunch session. Okay, madam, we are ready to take the questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful start. Sir, our one of our participant, Mr. G.K. Patel, has asked like this, sir. He has asked you to give one example of ordinary differential equation, sir.
Should I stop sharing my screen?
Sir, if it is needed, you can have it, sir.
Hello?
Sir? Hello, sir? Am I to repeat the question, sir?
Dear participants, sorry for the inconvenience caused. The resource person is offline. Meanwhile, now it is 1:30. We break for lunch. Shall we come back by 2:15? If it is okay for you, please send your feedback saying yes or no. Afternoon session also will be handled by sir. Please wait for the resource person. The feedback link is posted. The feedback link is posted. Kindly register your attendance, please.
Hello, sir. Am I audible? Sir, let me repeat the question, sir. Sir? Am I audible, sir? Sir, am I audible? Dr. Vishwish, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Patil has asked you to give one example to solve a differential equation, sir.
Okay, I'm going to show that in the second half, post-lunch session. Only one example I'm going to show, a simple ODE, simple linear ODE, which is solved one by the analytical method, also solved by the numerical method. I'm going to give that in the post-lunch session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Then Mr. Yashas Kaushik has asked, sir, please tell how to save MATLAB figure in the Word file.
Actually, directly MATLAB saves the figure as with a .fig extension. Please note this, .fig extension. Okay. Now, if you want to put that figure into a Word file, best way is to convert that into JPEG or BMP. Okay, store it in your drive, in your hard disk, on your computer, and from there you can directly copy that and you can put it on in your Word file or in your PPT, whichever you are using, like that. That is the way it is done. Those who are using LaTeX and all that, I will answer for them also. Those who are using LaTeX, they can convert the file into PDF, or they can also convert it into EPS, encapsulated PostScript file, or simple PostScript file, PS file, and then they can embed that file into their LaTeX document, text document, using that /include graphics command and all those things. I think that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ranjit Kumar has posted one question, sir. Sir, can you please tell us how to draw multiple line charts using MATLAB, sir?
Multiple? I didn't hear that word. Can you please repeat, madam? Multiple?
How to draw multiple line charts using MATLAB, sir?
Multiple lines? Is he talking about multiple lines?
Yes, sir. Multiple line charts. I hope it's multiple lines only, sir.
I think what I will take it as a multiple plots on a single graph. I think I will take it that way. So I will quickly show that. I will share my screen. I'll just, with two commands, I can do that. So I'll share my desktop and I can show you how that happens basically. Okay. So I hope my screen is visible. My command prompt is visible to all. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me quickly show you. Let's say we take theta. Theta is equal to pi. It goes from minus 2 star pi with a step of 0.01 to 2 star pi. Okay, this is my theta vector, 2 star pi. Okay, right? Then I have first one as f1. F1 is equal to sine theta. Okay, f2 as cos theta. Okay, so I have created the three variables in the workspace: theta, sine theta and cos theta. Now I want to plot them. I want to plot them on a single. I want a sine and cosine plot to be on the same plot. Okay, very easy. Plot. Let me put some enter. Yeah, plot theta comma f1, which is my sine, and I will use a blue color for this. Then I have theta with f2, and let me use a red color for this. And I will creep the grid on. I have written, I am plotting theta versus f1, which is sine theta, and in that only with a blue color, and with theta and f2 with a red color, basically in the single plot. Okay, and I am making the grid on. You will see this is how it comes. So you get theta, sin theta as well as cos theta, and since you are using different colors, you have got a clear-cut demarcation. Okay, this one is my sin theta, okay, and this one is my cosine theta. And you see that when your sine is maximum, your cosine is 0, and when your cosine is maximum, your sine is 0. Okay, so this is how we can do it. I'll stop sharing. Yeah, I hope this answers the query.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And one last question is from Aparna Shinde. Which figure is more clear, .png or JPEG or FIG?
Actually, if you look at the resolution point of view, then I think the PostScript figure .ps is the most clear figure. PNG is better than JPEG, I would say, because what happens is when you are converting that figure from .fig to .jpeg, there is some loss of resolution which is taking place. Okay, so the best way is to use the PNG, and if possible, use the PostScript command. There is one command related to directly printing using command prompt for the figures. Let me check out that, and if possible, I will try to give it in the post-lunch session, or I will, whatever material I will be sharing with you, in that I will put that command. It is just a simple command on print, like a print command on the command prompt. Okay, and there you can define the resolution like R200, R300, you can define that resolution, so that becomes very clear. But again, it's a personal choice and the application that where you want to use it. That would be my answer for that.
Sir, thank you so much for answering all the questions very patiently, sir.